Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. All right, better. And welcome to the business session of the 79th Annual Conference of Mayors. Now, I know you all enjoyed the wonderful event last night. You know, wasn't it wonderful? We go through what Mayor Rollins Blake has done was to take us through some history with Fort McHenry. And then we had the governor play for us. Wasn't that fantastic? Yeah. And then she took us to a blighted building and showed us what could happen through innovation and in reinventing a space into something just beautiful, which is what mayors are really interested in seeing. And then last night, wasn't that just fabulous to just see an area of the city that was blighted come back to life in such a beautiful way, and how they just kept the historical architectural lines of the buildings and improved and remodeled the inside. It was just wonderful. And then, of course, the cuisine of Baltimore. Thank you, Mayor Rollins Blake. Thank you for all that you've done to help us to experience your city in such a great way. Can we give her a round of applause? Now, Mayor, since we're going to be considering resolutions later this morning, and I urge you to review the section in your program that explains the credential process. Please make sure you have your credential cards in hand to be counted during the vote. Have you picked up your credentials? Have you picked up your credentials? Yes, okay, great, great, great. We're a little slow this morning. Yes, you're here. You're here. Thank you. I'm pleased to announce that the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Wells Fargo will work together over the next 3 years on a project focusing on foreclosure prevention, property disposition, home ownership promotion, and community development. This project will address housing challenges through strategies developed by Wells Fargo and outreach initiatives that will involve mayors and their constituents. There will be 3 regional mayoral forums during each of the 3 years designed to educate and connect mayors to ideas, action plans, and proven best practice that will help improve the housing environment in communities across our country. Mayors have led the way on foreclosure prevention and responded to all of those challenges. And I'm very, very pleased we have this new partnership with foreclosure, with Wells Fargo, so that we can have more tools for us to work with and to help our citizens. Now, I want to thank all the mayors who stopped by the water taste test booth and took part in the judging of the blind test over the last few days. As you know, 5 cities competed in this final round of judging. They were Albany, New York, Rochester, New York, Denton, Texas, Pembroke Pines, Florida, and Racine, Wisconsin. These 5 cities came from a field of 73 cities that entered the competition, and over 100 mayors participate in the judging. All the votes are in, and I'm happy to now announce that. Ed, can you bring me the envelope, please? Thank you. Oh, can we have a drum roll? And the winner is Racine, Wisconsin, Mayor John Dickert. Come on. Mayor Dickert, come. All right. Where's the check? Ed, where's the check? You know, he did this because he wanted that $15,000. And is Jeff Sturba here from from American Water? We'll take the picture after. Thank you. Wow. Okay, here comes. They're running.
You don't have to run. We're patient. Oh, gosh.
You know, mayors know what this means when they go home with a check. Oh, here comes the check.
Come on, Rich. Yeah. Damn. Part of this. Come here, man. Yeah, no. Oh, sure. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Mayor, it's congratulations, and we all know what this means when you take this back to your city. And, you know, they can't complain about the taste of the water in Racine anymore, can they? You can say, and you get $15,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes.
First of all, you know, I want to thank Tom Cochran and Rich. Rich has just done a magnificent job. He really has. He's always been there, always been extraordinarily helpful. But also, Keith Haas in our water department is considered one of the best at his position, and this is one of the reasons why. But there's also somebody else, Dr. Julie Kinzelman, who does all of our beach work and all of our water work. And you know, as we all know, without people like that, we really don't get all these incredible awards. So thank you all. Jim Schmidt, I know you tried to taste test about 6 or 7 times. I want to thank you for that. He tried hard. I think he even tried to bribe people to tell him which one was Racine. So I want to thank you, Jim, for doing your best there. But it's nice bragging rights to have, and we're honored. We really are. I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank American Water for sponsoring this event, and congratulations to Mayor John Dickert. Thank you. We have a great partnership with American Water. This is the corporation that sponsored this event, and we are always very grateful for all of our sponsors. So congratulations again, and thank you to American Water. It is such a privilege to call on the next mayor, and he is going to be hosting us for our 80th annual Conference of Mayors. And this is our mayor from the great city of Orlando, Mayor Dyer. Tell us about what to expect in your great city.
Thank you, Mayor Couts. Good morning, mayors.
Good morning.
All right, I start most of my speeches by saying it's a great day to be in Orlando. But today I'm happy to change it up. It's a great day to be in Baltimore. And I want to thank Mayor Stephanie Rawlins Blake for being our host and showing us this dynamic city of Baltimore. We've enjoyed this city immensely, and we've learned a lot. What I want to learn, though, is how to make those twisted bacon things that we had Friday night at the. Were those good or what? I had never had those before, and I'm on a little bit of a diet, but those are worth the calories. We've taken advantage of our time here to use the collective voice of America's mayors to move our cities forward, and I want to thank Tom Cochran and everybody at the U.S. Conference for another sensational annual meeting. Also want to say thank you to the woman who has led our organization for the last several years, Elizabeth Couts, for her leadership and her vision. You've been a great president, Madam President.
Thank you.
At the same time, I want to congratulate the incoming president, Antonio Villagrosa. Earlier this year, we were out in LA for the All-Star game, and at the conclusion of the game, he passed the torch for that game to the city of Orlando. We have the NBA All-Star game in February, and I guess I'm getting a little passing of the torch here as well as we pass the host city torch from Baltimore to Orlando. And I can't begin to tell you how excited I am that you will be joining us in Orlando next year. And I'm equally, or maybe more excited, that I've heard from so many of you that your families will be in Orlando. It's Father's Day weekend again, so we want to make sure that everybody brings their children and their grandchildren. And one of the things that I'm a little bit pleased about is that last year we set a record for the number of visitors that we had in Orlando. We had 50 million visitors in Orlando. And why do people come to Orlando? Theme parks and attractions, yes, sunshine, outdoor activities, shopping, and there's also a major reason that people visit Orlando, and that is they come to Orlando to make memories with their families that will last for a lifetime. And I want to personally invite each and every one of the mayors to come and make memories with your families in Orlando. And if you've had a chance to stop by our booth, by the way, there's orange juice out there, Florida orange juice this morning, and pink flamingo pens, but we have a number of our tourism partners with us. Universal Orlando Resort, which is the site hotel for the conference. Visit Orlando, which is our CVB. And if you're going to spend a little extra time in Orlando, there are representatives there that will help you plan your stay. And we will also be launching a website, uscmorlando.com, that will have all types of information about making your stay just a little bit better. There'll be discounts that are offered by our tourism partners on the website and many other attractions. As you experience the hospitality side of our city, I'm also excited that you'll get to see the other side of Orlando. Many of you have probably been there. You can fly into our airport and go to the attractions without passing through our downtown, but we're going to make sure that you have an opportunity to experience our downtown. Orlando's gone from really a little sleepy old tourist town to a bustling, vibrant, dynamic city, a place that I am proud to call home. So as you head back to your cities, I want to give you a little preview of what's to come. And when you see this video, I have a beard in the video, and I probably ought to explain that. The Orlando Magic, when they went into the playoffs, the players grew beards, and one of our sports writers encouraged the fans to grow beards to support the players. And I did that and bought some clippers for the beard. Turns out we got ousted in the first round by Atlanta, and I didn't get my money's worth, so I kept the beard for a little while, but I shaved it off when I came to the conference, Mayor. So please turn your attention to the screens, get better acquainted with Orlando, a great place to visit, but also a great place to live, work, learn, and raise your family.
You think you know Orlando? This is my Orlando.
Every year, nearly 50 million people visit Orlando. They come to our city to make memories. They come to discover. They come for an experience they can't get anywhere else on earth. But our visitors are only half of Orlando's story. You see, Orlando isn't just the best place to visit. We also think it's the best place anywhere to live, work, and raise a family. I have the great privilege of serving as mayor of Orlando, and I'm excited to welcome America's mayors and their families to Orlando for the 2012 United States Conference of Mayors annual meeting. I'm Mayor Buddy Dyer, and I'm here at Universal Orlando Resort, host site for the U.S. Conference of Mayors 2012 annual meeting. There's so much to do here, from the wizarding world of Harry Potter to all sorts of things for the little guys, and my personal favorite, the Simpsons ride. So join me here in 2012 with my friends, Woody and Winnie, at Universal Orlando Resort. Okay, you guys ready to come to Orlando? I want to thank Mayor Rawlings Blake, Mayor Schmidt, Mayor Bermudez, and their families for helping us with that video. And I also want to say thank you, kids, and we have brought you a special gift. So each of the mayor's children that were in that video are going to get a magic wand from the hottest place in Orlando, which is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Orlando. And I'll give you a little preview. One of the things that we will do while we're there is Universal will close down one of the parks at night, so we will have exclusive use of one of the parks, and so no waiting in line for anything. And mayors, I know you're going to want to try to use this wand during budget time, but that's a no-no, okay? So thank you all, and hopefully we'll have every mayor in the conference in Orlando next year, okay? Mayor Couts, I'd like to present you with a magic wand as well.
Oh, thank you. I will treasure it. And can I use it?
No.
Thank you very much. Isn't that fun? We're going to be in Orlando next June, and it will be the 15th through, let's see here, the 15th through the 18th. So thank you, Mayor Dyer. We're looking forward to being in Orlando, and we're going to have fun. Thank you. I'm pleased to introduce Ambassador Ron Kirk, the United States Trade Representative, a member of the cabinet. He is President Obama's principal advisor, negotiator, and spokesperson on trade issues. The ambassador also served as mayor of Dallas from 1995 to 2001 and was an active leader within the Conference of Mayors. We mayors appreciate the strong focus on job creation as well as on trade policy that helps those American small businesses that are looking for opportunities in the international market. Mr. Ambassador, we are glad to have you with us today. It's always good to see you, and we always look forward to what you're going to tell us about what's going on in the trade market and making sure that we continue to create jobs and retain jobs in our country. Thank you for all of your work. We look forward to your remarks.
Well, thank you, Betsy, and thanks to Tom and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for the opportunity to come and be with my fellow mayor. Once a mayor, always a mayor. It is always good to see so many of you. To those of you I haven't met, I look forward to the opportunity to visit with you. To so many good friends that I've worked with over the years, from many of these here at the dais, it is always a pleasure to be with all of you. As leaders of your communities, you know better than any the anxiety of many of your constituents and families over the health of our economy and how we're going to get this economy ginned up again and make job creation a #1 priority between all of us who serve the public, whether in City Hall or at the State House or in Washington. As you pursue a vision of your city's futures, even while balancing very difficult budget priorities, you, better than any other public officials, though, understand the need to still make those core investments so that your cities can continue to grow. I had a chance to talk to my good friend, the mayor of Los Angeles, about some of the tough decisions he's making, but also some of the more forward-looking projects he's looking, including his understanding of how much he can help Los Angeles continue to grow by bringing international business to his city. And some of the international outreach he's doing, I'm sure the same thing's happening in Philadelphia. I want to thank my good friend Buddy Dyer for agreeing to serve on the President's Advisory Commission on Trade. It is the President's highest trade advisory committee. We have always had strong representation from the business community, but I thought it was time that we also had representatives from the State House and the local level as well, and Mayor Dyer's agreed to serve with us. We look forward to having him join us on Wednesday. I will try to abbreviate my remarks. I remember these conferences. I'm frankly pleased the attendance is as strong as it is on a Monday morning. Happy Father's Day to all of those of you who spent the weekend here. I would have been with you, but this was the first Father's Day in 6 years. I had both my daughters in town, so I went to New York to see them. I was glad to see them. Only I could spend my Father's Day in the women's shoe department in Macy's, but at least I was with my girls, and they continue to tell me that when they're happy, I should be happy. So either I did a whole lot better managing the city's finances than I do the Kirk girls. But anyway, happy Father's Day to all of you. I don't have to tell you all what a challenge it's been to try to manage our way from this recent economic malaise. This is the worst recession that our country's experienced, many people believe, since the Great Depression. And while our economy has been growing and adding private sector jobs, you know better than any that there's still just too many of our neighbors, too many Americans that are struggling and trying to find hope and trying to find jobs. Even as we act with all the urgency that we can to address this, particularly job creation, the President, I believe it's also important to reflect on, remember that we did not get into this economic mess overnight. And unfortunately, there's no switch you can flip that's going to get us out of it overnight. It's going to take time. But we do believe we are going in the right direction. And if you look at the big picture, I think the economic data backs that up. We've now had 15 consecutive months of private sector job creation. That's over 2 million jobs. Now, I want you to put this number into contrast. We've created 2.1 million jobs over the past 15 months. That's 2.1 million more jobs than were created in the previous 8 years before we took office. It is not enough. We know that, but we are going in the right direction. In the past 6 months alone, the economy's added over 1 million private sector jobs. And one of the things I want to talk to you about, because it is critically important that mayors that very much understand where jobs come from can join us in helping Americans understand that one of the ways, frankly, we're growing our economy is by trade. And this is against the backdrop of an increasingly skeptical American public that has lost faith in the value proposition of trade. But the reality is that trade, our exports to the world, are one of the two things fueling our economic recovery. Trade equals only about 13% of our gross domestic product. But right now, experts tell us that our exports, our trade is contributing almost as much to our economic recovery as consumer spending. And understand, our consumer economy is still the largest and most dynamic in the world. Our exports are up almost 17% a year, which puts us on pace to meet the goal and the challenge that President Obama set for us to double U.S. exports in 5 years by 2014. He did that knowing that if we can do that, we can sustain almost 2 million additional jobs in our American economy. And that's one reason we are so bullish on the President's National Export Initiative, is that we understand that by selling more of what we grow, manufacture, innovate, create here in the United States to those 95% of consumers who call someplace home other than America, that's a great way to grow our economy. I understood this intuitively, even though I didn't have the exposure to trade that I do now. When I was mayor of Dallas, I understood one of the ways we could grow our economy was by making Dallas a trade hub. I was privileged to be elected in 1995, a year after NAFTA went into effect. I know NAFTA is not embraced universally by others, but looking at Texas and looking at Dallas-Fort Worth where we were, realizing that we were no more than 3 hours from Mexico, Canada, New York, and Washington and LA, I thought we could help grow our economy by bringing more foreign investment into our community. And we did that. And I think so many others of you understand that the power of trade is a great way to help grow your economy. In my work as U.S. Trade Representative, my job is much more explicit. And my responsibility is to make sure that we open new markets around the world and increase opportunities for American producers to sell more of what we make, more of what we grow here in the United States around the world. And I'm going to keep hitting on that 95% of consumers, because if most of you were to go home and pick up the phone and call many of your businesses, they will tell you they can't have a long-term economic future just focusing on the American customer, that they have to have the ability to access these new emerging economies, particularly in Asia, India, Africa, and Latin America. And that's at the core of this National Export Initiative. We are bringing what makes it different. There have been other ones before. The President has tasked us to bring every agency in the federal government that touches trade to make sure that we have the most holistic, thoughtful approach to helping exporters access these markets. And in particular, and you heard Mayor Cox mention this in her remarks, we're focusing on what we can do to demystify the world of trade for small businesses and help them to understand the power to grow their businesses by selling to customers around the world. We all know that most net new job creation in America still occurs among businesses that employ fewer than 500 people. I would say in most of our cities, that's probably small businesses that employ fewer than 200 people. Exports can help these companies grow. We know, data shows us that businesses that are involved in exporting grow faster, they pay higher wages, and they hire more quickly than their counterparts that only sell to U.S. customers. And we think we've got a lot of room to grow on this. Remarkably, 96% of U.S. exporters are what we define as small to medium-sized businesses. And when you peel that away, though, the challenge, that represents only one of every 100 small businesses in this country. So it's only about 1% of our small businesses participate in export. In Europe, in Germany, in Asia, and other economies, the participation of small businesses in their export base can be anywhere from 5 to 7%. Well, if we just double, triple that number, imagine what that does for job growth in your communities, knowing that when a small business grows, if they go from 10 to 25 or 25 to 150, first of all, they're not going to move to China or Mexico. They're going to stay in Minneapolis or in Dallas or in Bangor or wherever, or in Detroit. They're much more likely to grow and have that growth be organic right in our cities where we need them. Opening up new markets for these businesses is one way we're assisting them. I'd like to do one practical thing, invite you to visit our website at export.gov if you want to learn everything that we're doing to help small businesses, from finance to credit counseling to export promotion through the Department of Commerce. That's the easiest way to find out how we can work with you to help those businesses. My role at USTR is to focus on the market access opening part of this mission, because that's what we do best. One of the ways we can create new markets is by entering trade agreements with new economies where we have the opportunity to gain access to their markets. We have renegotiated and are ready to submit to Congress fairly soon trade agreements with South Korea, Panama, and Colombia. I've heard from many of you that would be impacted by those favorably. We believe they have an extraordinary opportunity to help us create jobs, access these markets. Combined, the Korea Free Trade Agreement alone is more economically impactful than the last 9 free trade agreements that we did. And as counterintuitive as it is to many Americans that trade is a way to grow out of this, just think about this. Ours is the most open economy in the world. I tell people, all you got to do is go to any college in your district and look at all the cars we drive. There's no question we open up our market. Our tariffs are low. These trade agreements give us the opportunity to have Americans compete in these new markets at terms much more favorable to what we've been seeing. So they are very much to our benefit. Combined, Korea, Panama, and Colombia can help us add over 70,000 jobs at a time we need them, and add almost $12 billion to our GDP. So it's critically important that we get these passed. But the administration has also been fairly insistent on one other element of our trade agenda that we want passed with these free trade agreements, and that's a program called Trade Adjustment Assistance. And it's a covenant that we've made with America's workers since 1962 that we would provide retraining, education, assistance to workers who may be displaced from their jobs by no fault of their own because their business goes away. And rather than just shaking our heads and saying poor them, this president believes we ought to help those workers get back on their feet. And the reason you ought to care about it, this program is used in every state of the union by businesses large and small, workers that are both union and non-union. And the reality, when we look at the profile of who gets trade adjustment assistance, it is a 47-year-old male who is the only breadwinner in his family. And it is very much in all of our collective interest that we take these workers who have good skills and get them adaptive skills so they can get back into the workforce. So we are working with Congress as we speak to come up with a compromise between Democrats and Republicans. As you know, everything in Washington is a challenge these days, but we believe that this is the right way to move forward, not only so that we can open up these markets, but we can keep our covenants with those workers. And as soon as we get an agreement on trade adjustment assistance, we'll be ready to move forward with these trade agreements. The bottom line is that there are real job building opportunities on the table, and we want to bring those benefits home to America's working. Let me speak a little bit more broadly about the overall state of our economy and what the president believes we need to do to stay competitive. And again, in talking with so many of you in this room, and you've heard the president say it, we know we are in the most constrained budget environment that we've been in years. You all, as a mayor, I know you all, like I didn't have the choice, don't have the option to do deficit spending. You're having to make some painful decisions, but the president still believes we have to be willing to make the investments that are going to drive our economy in the future. And that's investments like research and technology. We're going to win in a global environment by coming up with the products and the innovation that drives the world's economy in the future and leads to the new ideas, the new energy sources that will drive our economies in the future. But we can't do that on a 19th century infrastructure. We have to continue to invest in non-sexy things like our roads and our bridges and our ports and our airports. We're not going to excel at exporting and out-competing the world if we have a port infrastructure that is inadequate to do that job and help us do that. We have to continue to manufacture new products here in America and sell them around the world. But that also means then we have to have an educated workforce. And so we need more partnerships similar to what the president announced last week when he met with the National Association of Manufacturers. We met with leaders in our community college system to realize right now there are over 500,000 unfilled jobs in America's factories around the country. But we have a workforce that lacks the skill set to do that. So what they announced was a collaboration in which we're going to team up with our community colleges and NAM to train 500,000 young people for jobs that are begging and ready to be filled right now. But we need to make sure that these young people have the skills to do that. The president also met with his Jobs Council to discuss ways that we can spur private sector hiring right now. And they announced an effort to train 10,000 new American engineers every year that will help strengthen our competitiveness to ensure that the new jobs and industries that we need are created here. The most sobering part of my work as trade rep is also the most inspiring. I just came back from 10 days in Africa. I was in Paris before that with OECD. We're getting ready to go to Asia. I've been to India several times. It is both inspiring and frightening to go to countries where you know there are 3 billion people who hunger for just a taste of what we have here in America. And, you know, we laugh and joke when we were kids, you know, and you would eat and your mother would put something in front of you and she'd say, boy, eat your food, you know, children, and you pick the country. Children in Africa or China are starving. Well, I tell people, they may still be hungry, but they're studying while they're starving. And they are producing the engineers and the scientists that are going to drive and fuel their economies. And having been a mayor, the one thing I know, every major urban area in America has the same challenge to make sure, particularly African American Hispanic kids graduate. In most urban areas in this country, half the kids who enter the 9th grade don't graduate from high school. And the way I look at this, if Africa, India, and Asia, and Latin America are as indifferent about educating their young people as we are, they're only going to have 1.5 billion of the most talented, educated, hungry workers entering the workforce over the next 20 years than you can imagine. We are not going to compete against the world and win without paying attention to the educational needs of our young people. So making sure and that's not just, you know, in their interest, that's a matter we think of national interest. So whatever we can do to work with you, our governors, our colleges and universities at the high school level to make sure that our young people have the skills to compete. The jobs can be there, but we have to have the talent to take advantage of that. Everything that we can do to boost manufacturing of energy efficient products will also help us put America on a surer footing. These are just a few components of the president's initiative to outbuild, to out-educate, to out-innovate the rest of the world to make sure that we can continue to compete in the future. But we know that there are no better partners for this than our nation's mayors. So we appreciate everything that you're doing. We admire your leadership at the local level, and we want to be a good partner for you. And we look forward to working with you to help keep this economy going and create the jobs that all of us need to fuel our growth. Thank you all again for being the great leaders that you are, and we look forward to seeing and working with you in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I'm pleased to introduce the president of the National League of Cities. He is from Charlotte, and he's a council member. His name is James Mitchell. The Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities have been working together on many key priorities, including saving CDBG, job creation, fighting unfunded mandates, and so much more. Please join me in welcoming NLC President James Mitchell. James.
Good morning. I bring you greetings on behalf of 19,000 cities and towns across this country, 2 2.5 million citizens live in those cities and towns, but more importantly, the membership of NLC. Thank you, President Kautz, for that introduction. It's great to be here today, and I appreciate this opportunity to address you all. Let me first begin by thanking President Kautz for her 18 months of leadership as your president of this great organization. You have been a good partner and a friend to the National League of Cities. And I also like to congratulate the incoming president of this great organization. Look forward to his leadership, Mayor of Los Angeles. Mr. President, looking forward to working with you, sir. We look forward to continue our strong partnership with your conference and your leadership team. It's just be able to go back home after this meeting. I have to give a shout out to my mayor who was here earlier, Mayor Anthony Fox of Charlotte, North Carolina. And Mayor said that both of us could not be at the same time. So I go back and run the city, you stay up here at the Conference of Mayors. So to my mayor, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity. As you all know, these are challenging times to lead. This current fiscal and political environment is forcing cities in Capitol Hill to make very difficult decisions. And yes, we all agree that the nation needs to put our fiscal house in order. However, we need to do this by investing in our future and long-term national competitiveness. The next several months will be a crucial time for cities as well as our nation. As you know too well, Congress is considering measures that would decimate the programs we rely very heavily on to create jobs in our communities. And while the economic downturn has forced cities to assess and reassess these services that we provide to our residents, to our business, the cuts to the federal program that are being considered in Washington would mean a significant setbacks for our cities and towns. I won't repeat everything that Mayor Kautz told you on Saturday about what's at stake in Congress right now in terms of the CDBG, the COPS program, and the many other federal programs that our community needs. As leaders of our community, we must all work hard toward getting Congress to do the right thing on the right issues. And NLC and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we need to continue to work together on these issues. It's so important to our residents and to our businesses. Together, we need to raise our voices loud so Congress cannot pretend not to know the consequences of their decisions and the impact of our communities. The only real recovery is one that creates jobs and sets the nation on the course for future growth. This recovery can only happen with a federal government willing to invest in Main Street and our residents. And I firmly believe that city leaders would do more than one thing. We can do more than one thing at a time, and we need to show the federal government how to get it done. You have my pledge that NLC will continue to be your partner, and I hope together we can convince the federal government to take a page from our book, that we can convince Washington that the road to recovery runs through Main Street America. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you, President Mitchell. And you can be assured that we will continue to partner on all of these issues. Mayors, the ambassador has told me that he will take some questions because, as you know, I always want to make sure that your questions about trade or any of the questions you may have from any of the member of Congress or the administration who come before us, that it's important that your voice be heard. So the ambassador is staying, and he's going to take questions at this time. So if the mics are out there, please. Mr. Ambassador. Okay, let's see. Any questions? There's a question.
Good morning. Rod Craig, Hanover Park, Illinois. My question is the export.com logging into the website. It was business-oriented, not mayoral-oriented. So when I logged into that, everything was targeting that. If we'd like to assist in some way, I'd like to see if we can target that website toward this group. Thank you.
We would be happy to work with you to do that, because we want to get put as many tools in your hand. We did have a bias to try to make it as friendly for those businesses that have to navigate the different federal agencies, particularly small business, because their biggest concern, they just don't have the resources and the time to try to figure out, do I talk to USTR, do I talk to Commerce? But we'll take your point and see what we can do there.
This is a follow-up. In our initiative recently, we are looking at those businesses. So the partnership component is a piece that we can pick up on and help those small businesses. Thank you.
We will see if we can do that, Rod. One of the more interesting partnerships we formed, for example, the reality is a business that's exporting is probably easier to get to do more if you're looking at small business that may be one that's never done before. We didn't have a lot of information on who in a way that is not getting into proprietary stuff. FedEx and UPS came to us and said, we can tell you who's exporting because we moved their packages. So we're literally working with FedEx and UPS and then working backwards. Because one of the other elements we found of our small business is remarkably, most of them only export to one country and most only export to one customer. So it's pretty easy to get that one business that's already selling to Canada or Mexico or Ghana and at least try to help them identify more customers. But obviously I can see there's a way for us to work with you on initiatives you might want to have as well.
Hello. First of all, Mayor Kinoy from the island of Hawaii, and it's very comforting to know that our United States Trade Representative was a former mayor and understands the issues that all of us face in our communities. But I wanted to ask Mr. Representative, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperative, or APEC, is being hosted by the United States this year. It's a great opportunity for our country. President Obama, as well as world leaders and prime ministers from 21 Asia-Pacific economies will be in Hawaii. My question is there an advantage, is there a potential for the mayors of the United States, as well as 21 Asia-Pacific countries, to work together to create economic development and initiatives down in our cities and municipalities versus just a conversation among our world leaders, but about a conversation among our world mayors?
Well, I happen to believe, Mayor, that it is, and thank you for highlighting the fact that we will be bringing the 21 member economies of APEC to Hawaii. I just hosted my trade colleagues in Montana 2 months ago in Big Sky, and one of the things we look at is how we foster more trade within this region. The APEC region is important to us simply because if you look at most economic models, this is where they project about 60–70% of the world's growth in the next 25 to 30 years to be. So this is a huge region for the United States, and we work within APEC. Our broad goal is to do everything we can to foster economic integration within the region and to make it cheaper, easier, faster to do trade. Now, at the mayoral level, I mean, I think you'll do, Mayor, what many mayors have done. This is where your advocacy, finding, partners within the region in which you have commonality to see what you can do to foster investment, and particularly for many of the West Coast mayors, and I'm not snubbing the rest of us in the interior, where you have a huge diaspora. You have an incredible base of either, Koreans or Japanese or whatever, that is an incredible value added for you. The mayor of Los Angeles, I think the largest Korean population in America is decidedly in California and, Los Angeles and San Francisco. That's a great tool for you to do that, but you other mayors also can look in your communities, and I think where it makes sense to build those partnerships.
Good morning.
Yes.
It's always good to talk to a mayor because you understand. In Michigan, I'm the mayor of Southfield, Michigan, and I have the largest number of Japanese-owned companies in my state. And because I don't manufacture, I have a lot of headquarters for automotive suppliers. And as you know, because the auto industry is coming back, that industry is growing. And I'm seeing more and more of the foreign countries coming into my city to establish headquarters or corporate offices. What I would like to ask is that if there is some concentration in your trade mission or policies where you're targeting automotive, that you understand that we're sitting there and we're being approached all the time. And I have the largest Middle Eastern population outside of the Middle East right in my region. And they are constantly approaching us on how we can get this relationship and increase their business in my area because of their population. So my final question is, for us mayors to educate us and to include us, if you're going to do a mission that's focused on a certain industry, and a mayor in that city or a part of the country is reflective of the resources that they need, that we're included. And more education, I think, on my part, because I'm inundated with Japanese and others coming to my city asking for support. So I appreciate that.
Well, Mayor, first of all, congratulations. That's a nice problem to have, I think. And one, we'll follow up with you because we have done a lot of things, and I think, well, I guess it is my job. I think the wisdom and frankly the courage of this president to make the investment he did, in particular in General Motors and Chrysler, we're now seeing the benefits. Both of those companies are not only back making a profit, they're adding capacity. I think General Motors announced they're getting ready to build a new plant, and we have, and forgive me for not coming to your city, I have been in and out of Detroit a number of times. The governor invited me, the mayor invited me. We've been to every one of those plants to look at what they're doing. And I'm happy to come. And I'd be honest, one of the frankly, stumbling blocks to the Korea Free Trade Agreement previously was what some believed was just an unacceptable difference in entry to their market versus ours we were able to address. I would say to you generally, we have the most liberal rules for foreign direct investment in the United States. And we often talk about manufacturing, but when we can get our friends, whether it's from China or Japan or the Middle East, to come spend money in your communities, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And we can, in most cases, work with commerce and tell you almost to a person how many people are employed in your state and your region that work under foreign flags because they are spending money and investing here. But there are good things happening. We know it's tough, but I appreciate your leadership on that, Mayor Lawrence. We'll be happy to follow up with you.
Mr. Ambassador, we'll take one more question. Okay, we'll take two more questions.
All right.
Okay, there's one over there, one over here.
Mr. Ambassador, my name is Jim Thomas. I'm the mayor of Hinesville, Georgia. Three mayors from our region went to China last year in 2008. In the second tier cities in China, the smaller, not in the Pearl River Delta, they are very accommodating to mayors and businessmen who come there. We carried a delegation of mayors, businessmen, and other government officials. And my question to you is that what can we get from your office or from the State Department to help us access that second tier of businesses? Because they want to locate in our cities along the coast of Georgia, and they also want to have our businesses work in China. The Hong Kong Trade and Development Center was very, very helpful in getting our businessmen to be comfortable with doing business in China so that they didn't fear losing their assets or anything like that. So my question is, how does your office help us to do that? How do you help us to get comfortable in doing business in China?
Well, Mayor, thank you for your question. And one of the elements of this National Export Initiative is making sure we have someone that can work with you, guide your businesses on that. Typically, when we're doing export promotion, identifying opportunities like that, we will do that through the International Trade Administration of the Commerce Department. Many cases, what you will find is that our friends in China are looking for opportunities to invest and spend money in the United States. That's a good thing. But we do want to caution our businesses, you need to be very careful about joint venturing and partner in China until we can get them to fully embrace and implement the commitments they made to strengthen their intellectual property rights. Depends on the company. If you're General Electric, General Motors, Ford, you know how tough it is. They're willing to sort of bet on the come because just they've got such a massive consumer population. But if you're that small business in Michigan or in Georgia, you got to be really careful about going into any market that doesn't have the respect for rule of law, particularly in copyright and intellectual property rights, because if they take your idea and put their name on it, that could be the death knell for you. But China is a great partner at the mayoral level. I will give a shout out to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. You may not have remembered, but I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, because I was here then at your business council at our conference in Las Vegas. You had a fellow by the name of Wang Qishan who came here and spoke to you. He is one of the third most important administration officials in the government of China. He is a vice premier. He has a huge portfolio, but he has a great affection for mayors because he was the mayor of Beijing. He was the mayor of Beijing who was brought in to run that city after the Olympics. So at that level, you will not find it uncommon that most of their leaders have cut their teeth at the local level. But still, you want to be careful about the business development. They're great. There are great opportunities here for investment. Again, we have very few constraints on investment from China. We just want to work with them to make sure we have the same opportunities going forward. I think if you just talk, it'll come on. You don't have to touch anything.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and as a former mayor, certainly thank you. My name is Juan Carlos Bermudez. I'm the mayor of the city of Doral, Florida, Miami International Airport, and we have a lot of international trade, a lot of the Asian trade, European trade that goes to South Florida that goes through our city. So you've answered a lot of my questions already on how we can work together, but one particular issue is important to the whole state of Florida, in particular South Florida, which is the Colombian Free Trade Initiative. It's one of the few trade initiatives where Colombia does not impose some of the limitations that maybe exist, as you so rightly mentioned, in other countries, yet we can't seem to get Congress and the President to move on this issue. Can you just give us an update on where that stands? Because I think it would be beneficial not only to Doral, to Florida, but to all the United States of America to have free trade with what I think is probably our best democratic partner in the Americas.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And that is, when I was mayor, I would say that wasn't a question, that was an answer, Mr. Mayor. The good news, you know, the concern about Colombia was by particularly many in the human rights and the NGO community over what they believed was just an unacceptable level of violence against labor leaders. Again, the Obama administration came in and said, look, let's deal with this honestly. We worked with the previous administration, but in particular, this new administration under President Santos. And when he visited the White House, I think it's been 3 months now, he and President Obama endorsed a plan to address labor rights that we collectively worked with Colombia. It had benchmarks and dates by which Colombia agreed to take certain steps. They have implemented, we believed, most of them. In fact, I sent a letter to Congress last Friday saying that we thought Colombia had met those benchmarks, and we're now in a position to move forward with that. The importance of that, Colombia being one of the poorer countries in the world, is a beneficiary of what we call our preference programs. So we have the inverse effect that we allow Colombia to send 98% of what they make to us duty-free. But yet we pay tariffs of 10, 20, 40% on goods we sell there. So this Colombia Free Trade Agreement is very much to the benefit of U.S. exporters, particularly in agriculture. But the agreement's ready. We have advised Congress if we can get the deal on trade adjustment assistance, Mayor, we'll move that forward. I would also say Panama is hugely important for us for the same reasons, in particular when I talk about infrastructure, whether it's the Port of Baltimore or all those ports in Florida, with Panama investing $14 billion to widen that canal. The transshipment of goods directly along our eastern seaboard can be extraordinary, but we need to work to make sure that we have the improvements in our ports to be able to handle these bigger container ships that will now come here. Because there's a lot of jobs at these ports and infrastructure. It's great to sell stuff, but we want people working, unloading those ships as well. Again, my website is ustr.gov. If you want to learn status on any of the free trade agreements, if you want to learn more about what we're doing in the National Export Initiative, I would invite you to visit export.gov. But again, thank you all for the great leadership that you're providing.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And congratulations on your time.
Thank you again, Mr. Ambassador. Mayors, it's always good to give you a report, and I'm pleased to report on our very successful Mayors National Dollar-Wise campaign. By 2015, Dollar-Wise aims to incorporate financial education into every summer youth jobs program in America. Previously, we announced the 2011 Innovation Grant and Summer Youth Campaign winners. Those cities were Baltimore, Cincinnati, Columbus, Fresno, Hartford, Phoenix, and Seattle. So here are some highlights.
First, Mayor's Job Fair Experience.
Yes.
Are you excited?
Yes.
All right. So you're going to go out here and knock them out. You're going to wow them, right?
Yes.
This is the 6th year we've done this. We had about 5,000 kids last year. We expect somewhere in that range again this year, 5,000 or 6,000.
Here is to kind of give them a little bit of teaser as far as financial education is concerned. And what we mean by that, giving them some little questions, you know, what's on your paycheck, what are taxes about, and should you write your checks in pencil? Just very simple, fun questions we want to throw out to the kids to get them thinking.
Extremely important that we not only give young people the opportunity to work, but we give them the financial tools that they will need for success. It's one thing if you go out and get a job and you spend all your money for the summer, but it's something else if you can actually learn what you should be doing with that money, how to create a budget, how to save money, how to plan for your future.
First paycheck?
Yeah.
Half of it is going in the bank and the other half is going to my card.
I'm going to have to save most of it for college.
Well, half of it's going in the bank. And then after that, like, I probably just get everything I need right now.
I think it's really important for kids today to be able to be employed and to find a job. It teaches you such values at an early age. I know that my first job, I learned a lot about just working in a team environment as well as learning to save and budget. And I think it goes a long way to putting you in a good step for a future career.
Managing money is very, 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 I can't explain it all. I can't stress the importance enough. It's very important. You must have a strong financial foundation or just some education on how to save instead of spend.
Get that debit card in your hand, you just don't know what to do, and it just keeps sliding.